In the last book of the Bible, it talks about how we will overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Jesus already did his part. He shed his blood. So now it's up to us to share our testimonies, and what better way to do that than doing it on camera recorded so that it can be shared multiple times for generations to come. But as good as it may be, you don't want to go into this without a strategy. Let's talk about why. How's it going, everybody? My name's David. I'm the head video editor here at ReachRight, and we like to make content like this that helps out churches, ministry leaders, and even nonprofits all the time. So if this is the kind of thing that interests you, it would mean a lot to us if you could hit the like button and then subscribe so that you're notified every single time that we release a video. Today, we're talking about how to film a powerful church testimony, and immediately this rubs people the wrong way because why would you ever try to put strategy behind somebody sharing their authentic testimony? Well, we're not talking about writing a script for somebody or changing their words completely. We want that to be completely authentic. This is something that God did in their life and they are the ones sharing it. But hitting record and letting a person talk can lead to some problems. A lot of times people are nervous on camera, so this can lead to a lot of stuttering or honestly just dead air. Also, it might be their testimony, but they might not really know what to say, as strange as that sounds. They may not be used to sharing their testimony. Maybe they just had it happen to them and they've only told a person here or there. And the truth is, if you look at any kind of interview or documentary, really think about it, they didn't just sit the person down and let them talk. They were guiding them through the entire process. So how can you guide them through the process? Well, let's talk about everything involved. First and foremost, the practical side of how to actually film this. We're not gonna take a lot of time on this because it's honestly the least important part, but you do need to know the basics. For starters, you're gonna want two different camera angles. I recommend one angle directly in front of the subject face on, and then another one about 45 degrees off. This will allow for the editing process to kind of switch between the cameras as the person is talking, and it just helps hold the viewer's attention and make it feel more authentic. Look at any kind of interview or documentary, they do this often. The second thing is lighting, and this is why I'm not even gonna talk about what cameras I would recommend using, because lighting can make a world of a difference even if you're just using smartphone cameras. I recommend a 3-point lighting setup, which honestly, a lighting source could even just be a window with natural lighting come in, but you're gonna want a key light, a fill light, and a backlight as shown in this diagram. It's what I currently have right now, except two of the lights are off camera, you can't even see them, but I have my backlight as an actual practical light that you can see in the shot. And lastly, audio. Every professional videographer I know says that 80% of a good video is actually contained in the audio and the sound design. Most small churches don't have professional sound equipment, but I'm just telling you, you're gonna want a separate microphone than the one that's on the camera that's far away from the subject. You're gonna want a microphone close to them. I recommend just using the voice app on a smartphone and putting it in the person's shirt pocket like this so it's close to their mouth. Or you can get what's called a shotgun microphone. They're under $200 even for good ones, and I would just make sure it's about, I don't know, maybe 3 feet away from the subject's mouth at best, but make sure it's pointed directly at them. Now with all of that out of the way, let's talk about what actually matters and the thing that most churches don't think about: structuring what the person is saying. When I got into videography and started getting clients, the one thing I didn't see coming was I had all the skills to make a video look good, but the person I was filming usually just didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to instruct them what to do. So this is actually an underrated skill that takes some intentional planning. For starters, I recommend setting up all of the equipment and getting the person sat down in front of the camera, but not recording yet. Make sure they know you're not actually recording, and then just simply start talking to them. Make small chat to make them feel comfortable, but then ask them to share their testimony with you personally. Again, camera's not rolling. You're just asking to hear the testimony so that you, the director, have context in your head of what this person's testimony is in their own words. Now you've heard them share their testimony and you have it in your head, so you know how to direct it for the camera to hear, but then also the person's gotten a dry run through of this recording, so they hopefully won't be as nervous. They've kind of shared their testimony already, they're getting warmed up, they've been sat in front of the lights and the microphone and the camera for a while now, they're getting a little bit more comfortable. It serves as a twofold thing. I would encourage you to do this first. Now the last thing you want to do next is just tell them, okay, just do exactly what you did with me, but in front of the camera. That doesn't work. They don't know how to do it. They're still nervous because you're actually recording now. Don't do that. Instead, now tell them, okay, we're actually going to record and I'm just gonna ask you some questions to kind of guide you through this testimony. Oftentimes people may not realize it, but a lot of times when people share their testimony, they don't include kind of crucial details. Sometimes they leave out details or context that just doesn't make sense when it's illustrated on camera. But rather than asking them details or for context clues, what really matters is the emotion behind the testimony. I'm not asking you to force your subject to fake emotion. What I am telling you is a lot of times people won't actually share the emotional side of what they were going through. And that's the most relatable thing that viewers are going to find in a video. We just finished a video analyzing the top 100 church YouTube channels and what they do to be successful. And although the mass majority of videos that churches upload are actually sermons, one thing we realized is that the strategic part in their titling and their keywords all had to do with using emotional words. This is because viewers will relate to emotions a lot better than theology. You have to think about it from a viewer's perspective. If people are searching online because they need financial breakthrough, or maybe they're stuck in an addiction and they just need help, they're not really gonna relate to just a random scripture or theological video. They're gonna relate to a person's emotional suffering, what they went through, and then how they were redeemed. People relate to people. So when you have your subject on camera, make sure to ask them the questions that maybe a viewer would want to know. Testimonies have a beginning, a middle, and end. So what I usually do is ask the person, how do you remember feeling before the situation? How do you remember feeling in the midst of it? And then how do you feel after? 9 times out of 10, this is something like, I felt abandoned, hopeless, or lost before. In the middle of it, it was a struggle, but I felt encouraged. And then after, it's I feel redeemed and I feel hopeful now. You would be surprised how oftentimes those things get left out of a testimony when the subject is just left to kind of share whatever's on their heart. This is because people don't want to go back to that time in their life that felt dark and all the pain that they felt. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to include that. But it's important in a testimony because people that are listening and hoping to get their faith built need to be able to relate to the person. So it's important to encourage the people, hey, I know this is hard to talk about it, but as long as you're comfortable with it, I would encourage and push you to almost share it, because it really could save somebody that's watching it through the other side. Ask them what prayers they did multiple times throughout this process, if any. Ask them if there's any scriptures that stuck out to them or that they stood on during this time of their life, because the viewers that are watching this video, they may not have even opened a Bible before, and they may not even know what's in there. Making powerful YouTube videos is just one thing that your church can do to have a good online presence. But people that get on Google and search for churches in my area, there's a lot of factors involved to make sure that your church is one of them. Lucky for you, we actually have a free church marketing review that only takes a couple of seconds, and you're gonna get back a 100-point assessment to know how you measure up. This is completely free. I'm gonna leave the link in the description below. It only takes a couple seconds, and I would definitely encourage you to check it out. Now, the last practicals I'm gonna leave you with is make sure to ask the person, how do you involve God in your life now? And make sure that's included at the end of the testimony when editing. And then also all of those emotional questions you were asking before, make sure in editing to put those at the very beginning. You kind of want to include the person's name if they're willing to share, their age if they're willing to share, but make sure to include those kind of struggling points of their testimony at the very beginning when editing, because people that are viewing this are probably going to be desperate, and if you immediately start the video off with something they can relate to, they're going to stick around to hear the rest of the testimony. Now, these testimonies should be authentic, so for the thumbnail, I would just include a still shot of the subject talking and then the words that need to go next to it. But that's a pretty vague direction and instructions. So speaking of thumbnails, you should check out this video that talks about what makes a good church YouTube thumbnail.